Hello and welcome back to Trollspeilet. Today I'm alone. Pelle is away today, so I have to talk to you about rhythm alone. And today we're going to talk about aids. You remember that perhaps that we talked about the natural aids, how we are using our body language and different ways to influence the horse with our body while we're riding, and also we're going to talk about repeat about what is rhythm and why is it so important. We're going to show some pictures, and we're going to show a little video from when Pelle is riding, so he's going to be with us today, but just in a video. When you're talking about rhythm and the aids to influence the rhythm, first and foremost, I'm talking about the backswing of the horse and how to influence the backswing of the horse, because the rhythm is. When we're talking about rhythm, we actually are talking about how the back of the horse swings. And just as a basketball player is influencing the ball when he's bouncing the ball, you can actually influence the horse's back by bouncing the horse's back. But of course, you're not bouncing by just like sitting there and jumping up and down, because that is not actually what a basketball player is doing either. He's following the rhythm of the ball, and he's influencing the ball in different directions in a way that needs a lot of practice. Because if you do it in the wrong rhythm, the ball will just bounce away. So you lose the ball, you fumble the ball. So what we're talking about first and foremost is that you need to be able to sit still in the rhythm with the horse and not bounce. If you're bouncing, you can't influence the rhythm of the horse. There are, of course, ways to influence the rhythm of the horse without being sort of a perfect seat rider. I am an example of that. I have lots of trouble in my body, so it's not so easy for me to just sit there and influence the rhythm of the horse if the horse has got large problems. Then you can post to the trot, you can stand in the stirrups and things like that. So in this rhythm series, we're going to talk a lot about how you can influence the horse when the horse has lost its rhythm. So, also when you've come so far, is you can sit still, you can feel the bouncing, how the saddle is moving, because it's all about when you're feeling the horse's back, you're feeling the rhythm through the saddle and how the saddle is moving. And if the horse is lifting lifting his back up, his withers up for each step, you can feel that the saddle is moving like this, and different rhythm in different gaits. So what you're doing is that you're influencing the sort of tipping of the saddle, but then you need to know how it's supposed to move. So of course that is an important thing to train, to try different horses, to try a horse that has got a good rhythm, and to learn how to sit. And then you can actually just to repeat what we've said in earlier streams, you can influence the movement. For instance, if the saddle is moving like this in trot, it's moving like this, and if you want the horse to move, like take longer strides in an extension, you want to influence the ball to move more like this. And if you sort of jump a little more forwards while you're doing that, the horse will feel that it needs to stretch its stride. And if you jump a little more upwards, you will collect the horse more. And then you can also jump a little sideways, then you get side lateral movements. And also you can stop the horse. You make a downwards transition or a halt. And then you must understand that you can't stop the horse with just tensing up and blocking the horse's back. Because if you do that, the horse, the back of the horse will just do this. And then you lose all the carriage over the back. You lose the rhythm. So many people think that a half halt is, pulling at the reins and blocking your seat. And of course, the horse will stop then, but it will not stop with the back in the carrying position, and not with his hind legs under himself, and perhaps with the withers down. And we're going to see some pictures about that. And also, it's a funny thing when people start understanding this back movement thing and how to influence it. I always say, can you understand now how you do the passage? And people say, yes, I do. And because it's so related, nothing in riding is like when you come to this level, suddenly everything is new. And then you have to learn everything again. No, everything in riding is by degrees. So you always build on the same thing. So what you're learning when you learn to sit to the trot in a good backswing, it's the same when you come to the collection or the passage, for instance, because it's something that people always ask, how do you do the passage? What is the aids for passage? And the aids are that you just lift yourself higher, and the horse will follow with his back if he's strong enough and he's got enough impulsion and he's straight and all those things that we've been talking about in the training scale. So I'm going to talk a little about exercises that we use for helping a horse to find his rhythm. But first we're going to see some pictures, and perhaps we can see the first yeah, thank you, Ivar. It's a picture of Pelle that is riding his Knappstrap stallion Mandarb. And in this picture, it looks quite okay, doesn't it? We're talking about the parallelity, the last stream, and we can see here that the diagonal legs are quite parallel, but what I can see that the withers, the shoulder part of the horse is a little low, so it's difficult for the horse to get the right backswing. But in this picture it looks quite okay. But we're going to see some other pictures, so that we can so we can learn how to see this special problem that is with this horse. Every horse has some weaknesses or troubles, and what this horse is a little tense or locked in his shoulders and his withers, and so this is not something that Pelle does wrong. Many people say that it's always the rider's fault. Everything if the horse does something wrong, it's the rider's fault, and I think that is sort of taking away something from the horse, because the horse can have a problem too. And if we don't realize that there might be a problem with the horse, then we're sort of it's not. I think it's not respectful towards the horse, because we need to find out what is the trouble with the horse. And then it's just like when a doctor is asking you, where is the pain? have you got a problem today? We can't ask the horse to do because the horse can't speak. So we need to try it out when we ride. We feel what is wrong. We feel there is something that is stiff, and then we do something to try to repair or help the horse with that problem. And then we find out, is it better? So today we're going to talk about this particular horse and this particular rider at that moment in time, because things change all the time. So we can only take examples and show what we're going to do right then. So can we take, I think we're just going to go through the 4 pictures. So we take picture number 2 now. And here, this is also a nice and diagonal picture, but you can see that he's very low in his head, and his neck looks very powerful, but it's quite obvious that he's on the forehand. You know, the weight is on the front legs. And if we can see the next picture, you can see here it's sort of falling apart. The whole picture is falling apart. He's falling on his forehand. So this is not a correct rhythm. And we've got an extreme picture in the 4th picture, I think. Yeah. And if we stay a little on this picture, because I like to extrapolate. I know this is not something that Pelle is not doing anything wrong here. He says he sits on the horse and he lets the horse find his balance. And sometimes he falls out of the rhythm, and sometimes he finds his rhythm. And it's important to let the horse find its own rhythm, because as I usually say, I can't tell anyone to balance on a slack line. It's impossible. You need to practice, and you need to find out what should I do with my body when this happens. And that is what we try to do with the horses as well. We put them in a situation with a rider up, and we do exercises, and the horse finds out how can I move in a good balance when it feels nice. And when the horse finds his rhythm, the horse will like it. We always see that the horse takes a deep breath, and he snorts, and he breathes, and he grunts, and all kinds of signs of pleasure. And also that the horse, when he's been moving for a long time in a good rhythm, he's more willing to come and train, and lots of other signs that the horse likes this thing. And you can also see here that the point in front of the saddle is low, the lowest part of the whole back. So that the back, when we go backwards through the saddle and to the sort of the lumbar back, the part between the saddle and the croup, the highest point of the hindquarters, you can see that part looks weak. Can you see that? And it also goes like upwards, from the back of the saddle and backwards. And that means that it's impossible for this horse to lift its back and carry from the hindquarters. And also, if Pelle would like to collect this horse just by adding his leg aids and pulling at the reins, the horse will just collapse more in his neck and lower his back more. So that is not what we want to do. So we want to do, can we see the first picture again? You can see here he has more balance, obviously more weight on the hindquarters. But Pelle is not working to collect the horse now. There is a lot of misunderstandings between balance and collection, because collection is advanced. You should not try to collect the horse before it has a good backswing, because then it's so easy to lose the rhythm. And that is why we see so many um, horses and riders in like advanced dressage, for instance, that they have forgotten about the rhythm. And then you see all these high front legs and all those things, and that is not good for the horse, because then you get all these strain injuries and stuff. So I'll just have to see if I have covered all I should, because I haven't got Pelle here now to remind me. Yeah, so what we're doing is to make the horse lift his back, is that we need to, for this horse, we need to make sure that he's supple in his shoulders. That is the first thing we do. Help him to stretch his shoulders, a lot of lateral movements, a lot of circles, a lot of stretching and positioning his head, like, positioning when the horse is supple in the first joints in the back or the neck, and then making the horse stretch, because if the horse is allowed to stretch his neck and head down and forwards, the horse will also lift his back. So, are we ready to run some movie, Ivar?
Just a little while. We have a few technical difficulties. So,
yeah. So I need to. Yeah, there is something wrong with the video, but I can talk more. I haven't got any problems talking about horses. Thea has a question.
This is my question.
Yep.
If you need some fill.
Yeah.
The thing you just discovered with the hyoid bone and the positioning. Do a short bit on that.
We can talk about, Thea. You remember that Thea had this stream about what we call untangling. The easy finding trigger points and just holding your fingers like quite softly to the trigger point and wait until the horse breathes it sort of loose.
The positioning is so important.
Yeah, it's really important with positioning. For positioning is, if the horse is not able to do this positioning, both this and this with the two first joints in the neck, the horse is not able to move off the back, and the horses will not be able to find its own rhythm. So it's as Thea says, it's a prerequisite, I would say. So if the horse is really stiff here, you could work with those stiff points. And what I found out quite recently is that you can manipulate right between the jaws of the horse. You can find points under there that you can touch and just wait until the horse relaxes, and you can feel the horse's reaction right away if you find the right spot, because the horse will just they become like it's so obvious that they are so wow, they say wow, and they stretch into them and they become like this. So if, and that is all, the hyoid bone or the apparatus that is sort of inside in there, that is the connection to the tongue. And the tongue is so important for communicating with the horse with the fingers. So I will talk more about those things in a later stream. But there are so many interesting things about finding the rhythm, because there are so many places that the horse can get stuck. But of course, we're talking about the hind legs all the time, because the hind legs are important, and those are the ultimate goal for helping the horse to move correctly and carry us in a good way is, of course, to get the hindquarters to carry, but we need the back first. And now we know that the video is ready, so we can have a look on this short little video with Pelle. Oh, it's our logo as well. You can see here that you can actually see quite all the time that Mandarb he wants to sort of collapse a little in his neck. So every time Pelle tries to take contact with his mouth, he's sort of collapsing. But here you can see that Pelle lets him stretch, and he's positioning Mandarb to the inside. Can you see that? That he's doing this thing that I showed you with my head. And then Mandarb really wants to stretch right away. And he sort of shakes his head and doing a lot of stuff because he can feel that these tense things or stiff muscles, they need to let go. And then he wants to stretch. So this is not something that Pelle forces him to do. He's just he's using his aids in a way that stimulates Mandarb to want to stretch. And then he wants, it's impossible for the horse to walk with his nose to the ground without lifting his back and stretching his shoulders. And now in this sequence you can see that Pelle is sitting quite still in the saddle. But you know, the saddle is moving. So sitting still in the saddle does not mean that you're sitting still. You're moving forwards and upwards and then downwards or backwards in trot. It feels like you're moving your seat in a circle when the horse is moving correctly. And we've talked about that in an earlier stream. So now we're coming to complex things that we need a lot of knowledge from before. So, and that's a good thing about these streams, because they are also available in you know, you can just download them whenever, because they're, and here you can see that he's pooing and that is a good sign, because when the horse relaxes in its top line and lifts his top line, he suddenly needs to like go to the toilet, and that is a good thing. And also when he snorts and stretches his neck and stuff like that, it's a good thing. So let's see now what he's going to, no, he's just, you know, it's interesting to comment this, because Pelle is now just doing an ordinary lesson, training session, and feeling the horse, feeling what the horse needs to do in order to relax and to stretch and find the rhythm. And Pelle knows how the rhythm should be. So he's trying to, what's it called? He's trying to engage the horse's back, or to tease him to try to find the rhythm. But he shouldn't force the horse to find a specific rhythm. You just move your back, or move your seat, so to push the saddle to move in more like this, not like this. Because if the saddle moves straight up and down, the horse is not carrying from the hindquarters. So now you see he's positioning the head to the inside again. And that is actually, for many people it's difficult to understand that if the horse is behind the vertical, that it's helping to do the positioning thing. Because, you know, when the horse is, the two first joints in the neck, one of them is doing this and the other is doing this. And if the horse does this too much, that is sort of collapsing and and walks with the nose behind the vertical. This way to move these two joints is too active, and this one is not so active. So then when you position the horse to the side, you're correcting that you know, the relation between those two joints, because the horse should be able to do both at the same time, both this and this. And as soon as you do that correctly, the horse will stretch and the horse will lift his back, just as like Pelle does now. And a way to remember how to do that when you start to engage the horse's back is to do what Pelle does now. He asks the horse to keep his muzzle right in front of the inside point of the shoulder. You know, the shoulder blade, the lowest point of the shoulder blade is it's sort of a it's protruding in front of the horse's body. So if you think that you're holding with your hands the horse's muscle right in front of that, then the horse will be forced to engage his back more diagonally. And then you just sit there, just like Pelle does. And could you see that he sort of tries to jump forwards a little more than the horse wants? But he shouldn't. If he jumps too much, the horse is not interested, because then you lose the horse. But if you jump forwards a tiny little bit, the horse will sort of try to follow your aids, because as we talked about earlier, the horse wants to push into what you call that, into pressure. So if the pressure goes away, the horse wants to follow the pressure that went away. And here you can see that Pelle is doing some backing up, and the rhythm of the backing up is really, it should be 2 time. There is 2 time a little, but you know, the legs are moving in all kinds of rhythms here, and so the rhythm backwards needs to be good as well. And the reason why that his backing up is out of rhythm is that he's tense in his back. It's a very good, that is the reason why the dressage programs often include a backing up, because you can so easily see if the horse is tense in its back. So if it's a problem with the backing, then you need to do it more. It's no problem, just do it. And often you can back up more than 4 steps, like you can do 8 steps, 10 steps. Either the rhythm is better. Oh, but then he lost it. And Mandarp says, no, I don't want to. It's difficult. And then you need to be patient and just wait. Because the backing up is, then he needs to lift his withers in order to get the right rhythm. And then Pelle does not, he goes forwards again, because you can't just fight the horse, because then he will just tense up. And now he starts to like shake his head again, and then try to lift or get, you know, there are all these stiff muscles are the ones, the thing that is hindering him from lifting his back properly. So you can see he's still trying to use his seat in this circular way that we've been talking about in the stream that was called the circle of the seat. And he's positioning the horse to the inside. And of course, as we've told you before, we of course we have, as all riders, we have a goal of being able to ride straight forwards. But that is more difficult. And if the horse struggles with moving his back and lifting his withers, he will struggle more on a straight line. So it's just fair for the horse that we're stretching on a circle, in the beginning, so that it's easier for the horse to stretch. First he stretches his outside, here he stretches his outside right side, and yeah, stretch and stretch. And it's a little boring perhaps. For many people it's boring because you do this for a long time. But then it's more fun because you could feel that the horse becomes easier to sit on. He becomes more positive to the training. And if you do this properly, you can keep the rhythm all through all the exercises and all the advanced exercises, and you know, when you're doing dressage and even Grand Prix, you need the rhythm, or else the exercises will become bad. And also it's much easier for the horse to get strain injuries because the front leg and the hind leg, the diagonal in the trot is not landing at the same time. So there will always be a front leg, for instance, that is getting all of the weight of the horse, and then you get what's it called? Betennelse? Inflammation, and also arthritis if it continues. And also kissing spines is a very common result of horses that move with the withers down, because when you can see the protrusions of the vertebrae in the back, in the withers or in the back. When the horse moves over the back and stretches it back, they become like this. And if the horse lowers his withers and becomes tense in his back, the protrusions goes like this, and they touch each other, and that is painful for the horse. And then you get all kinds of inflammation there as well. And you can get also that it's painful, and it also can be blocked because yeah, calcification, so they're blocked together. So it's important for many reasons to work with this specific problem of making the horse lift his withers. But this is a young horse, so we're not starting with collecting. It's again, it's important to understand that balance is not collection. Balance is getting the rhythm right so that the front legs and the hind legs, they're in rhythm with each other. And also the horse carries this a little more weight on the hind legs than it will normally do when it's without the rider. And I just have to watch it a little to see what he's doing. No, he's doing the same all the time. Can you see that the horse is trying to stretch, and here he does a half halt and a transition. Could you see that he was, if you see this another time, because we can't go back and see it again, but if you watch this several times, you can see that when Pelle does the transition, he just stops the movement, or he doesn't block his seat. He is riding like this, and then he does the movement a little slower, and then the horse makes the transition. And you can see that when he does the walk, his seat goes like this, and when he does the trot, the seat goes like this. And then it's important to be straight in his upper body and relaxed in his legs. Yeah, then now you can see very clearly that he's trying to influence the horse to move his back more. But he never leaves the saddle. It's just a feeling that you're flying a little over the saddle. You take away the weight. Now. You take away the weight a little from the saddle. And also, the same happens when you're doing the posting trot. Because then you take the weight of the rider away from the bottom, the middle of the saddle, you know, where your seat bones are, and then you lift your weight forwards to the stirrups. And that what's happening then is that you change the weight in the saddle from the back to the front, so you actually are influencing the horse to move his back more. So that was the movie or the video. So before we are taking questions, I'd like to see that all these things take time. It's very important to understand that it takes time. It's not, as you saw, this video is very repetitive. He's doing the same things and changing the sides and he's bending to one side and then to the other, and he's stretching the horse. He's picking him up again, and you should never expect big changes in one lesson, because then you're not building correctly, like capacity in the correct way. Because you're building strength, you're building rhythm, you're building balance, what's it called, smoothness, elasticity, because all these things, the horse needs those things. And also it's important to take your time to learn how it feels when the horse moves in the correct rhythm, moves over the back, that the back swings. So make a plan. It's very nice to sit down and make a plan and find out what you want to do and what you need to find out with your horse, what the problem is. Talk to a trainer, talk to your therapist, talk to your veterinary, because many horses with rhythm trouble has got strain injuries, and the veterinary might know a little more about what can be the reason for the problems, and that might be that the horse has lost its rhythm. So is there any questions?
No.
No, nobody wants to ask questions about
Come on, people.
rhythm.
Questions, people.
Yeah, but Thea, perhaps you have some questions. Are you guys here in our living room?
Well, one thing, you talked about how Pelle uses his aids to encourage the horse to stretch.
Yeah.
Will you elaborate a little on that one?
Yeah,
it's
the same. Yeah, it's a good point, because I was talking about that the horse is going into the pressure, you know, and we talked about that in an earlier stream. But this is a good example that because when you're touching the tongue of the horse with a bit and taking up the contact, and especially when you're doing the positioning thing and you push your hands forwards, you sort of you're taking away the pressure, and the horse wants to move into the pressure, because that is we're talking about the natural aids. The horse wants to go into the pressure that goes away. So it's the same thing that we're doing with this over the back thing, with the seat, and also by yielding with your hands. Then the horse wants to stretch because it wants to continue to have that contact, and that is what you want. And if you yield with your hands and the horse doesn't follow the rein forwards, then that is a sign that the horse is still stiff. So then you need to find out where the stiffness is, and you can work with it with the untangling techniques, or you just bend the horse while you're riding, and you're doing the side, the lateral movements, because that is when the horse needs to move his legs like this, that loosens up in the shoulders and also in the hip joints. And of course, we're going to talk about these things in many other streams. So this is just one example. Any other ideas, things I have forgotten?
Well, Mandarb is a very young horse, but you would work the same with an older horse? Or
yes. Yeah, that is also a good question, because, all these things, I always do these things when I warm up the horse, when I start working. And if everything is okay, it takes like 2 minutes, and then you're finished. Then it's just like the pilot starts riding, and then you go to through the checklist to see if everything is okay. And of course, if the horse is not able to bend to the left, then you have to work with the bend to the left. And then you if you make yourself this checklist every time you start riding, then you will also find out what is the situation for the horse. Where is the trouble today? Have we come any longer? And when I'm instructing, I'm always doing the same thing. I'm always checking first, is this okay? Can the horse do this? Can the horse do this? Can he stretch and move this outside shoulder more than the inside? And the same the other way. And can he stretch his muscle down to the ground? And can he listen to the seat? And all those things. And can he move sideways? And then you continue, and then you build sort of break upon break until you have the Grand Prix, because there is no, you never come to a point where you suddenly are advanced. Everything is like building gradually on each other. So that is important.
And just to finish off, for the one person watching who's not that horse experienced, we talk a lot about dressage and dressage classes and programs and competitions, but this is applicable for anyone, regardless of the discipline, right? So
and
if you're
also,
just hacking out, or if you're doing eventing, or
especially also I for eventing, you will get a horse that is not, if it's not so tense, the horse will move more easily, so that it doesn't get that tired, and the rhythm will become better in the canter or in the gallop, so that you can sort of it's easier to
cover more ground, almost.
Cover more ground, and also the rhythm is better, so that you can sort of the distance to the obstacles are you can control those better, and the horse will not get that tired, because you take away all these stiff muscles that are hindering the horse in moving its shoulders, and the wrong rhythm is more tiring than swinging in your own good rhythm. And also, like with show jumping, of course, it's the same. You're going to be much easier to take like the jump offs and stuff, and also like every show jumper knows that a good canter rhythm is very, very important. And just by hacking out, the horse will get more relaxed and not so frightened, and it's easier to sit on the horse, and the horse will again become less less tired.
And a loose back will also make the jump itself better to ride the, what's the word, basculation?
Yeah, basculation. Yeah, it will sort of stretch his back like this when he jumps, and then he will clear the obstacle in a much easier way.
And Hege is trying to formulate a question, but give me some time, please.
We will try. You know, it takes a shorter time to have a stream when Pelle is not here, because we usually talk a lot
amongst
yourself. So now you have to be the Pelle substitute.
I'll be the Pelle substitute. No, but that was the questions I got from the non-horsey person who's learning a lot by watching, he says.
How cool. Yeah. And also I think I didn't mention all the different areas or disciplines of riding, but you know, what's it called when you do distance riding, or I don't know, I don't remember what it's called, but you went long distance endurance. I've been talking to a lot of endurance riders, and I'm saying you need to find the rhythm. You need to find the right rhythm, because then the horse will last much longer, it will be faster, and it will not get so tired. And that is so important for the endurance riders. And they, of course, you know that everyone who's doing it knows about the veterinary controls, and they're checking the pulse of the horse and stuff like that. And if the horse needs to struggle against its own body for each stride, it's going to be more tiring. And also, of course, if you're struggling for each stride, it's going to take longer time as well. So all these, and dressage, I use that term all the time, but it's not because I think that everyone is going to do dressage competitions, but dressage is the basis of training methods for all kinds of riders.
And Hege had a really good question, actually.
Okay.
When the horse wants to stretch and seems to not want to stop doing that, is there a point where we should ask it to lift its head and work in a shorter frame?
Yes.
Or is it a sign that it just needs to stretch more?
It's a very good question. At some points you have to say, okay, now we're finished with this stage. Now we're going to lift you up again, because there is no point in riding the horse with the nose at the level of the ground all the time, because then he's actually very much on the forehand. But the point with doing that is making sure that the horse is able to stretch. It's just like the checkpoint, you know, with the pilot checking out, is this plane working as it should? So the horse is able to stretch his neck, okay, but then we'll have to work on the balance. So and I know that Hege's horse she's an intelligent horse, so she's it's so nice to stretch, but it's so hard to work. So I'm stretching a bit more,
And then we have a question from this guy named, I think, Ludwig. He has a rookie question. What exactly are these aids? And would this be something for a beginner to consider as well?
Yeah. I think we have a stream that is called Natural Aids. And it's sort of it's the signals that you're using, your body is signaling to the horse how to move and what you want the horse to do. And if you are unsure about anything in this video, it might be that we have actually covered it in one of the other streams, and all of the streams are available on our Facebook page. It might be that you have to search a little for them, but and I would recommend you to just watch them several times, because sometimes we have to be a little quick, and we can't repeat all of it all the time. But then you can just,
Mix and
watch
match.
them several times.
We also have one regarding tension, right? Because we're talking a lot about tension now. And I
Yep.
think we did one earlier this year on releasing tension.
Yes. So what we're trying to do with all these streams is that we want to like build on the streams that we've done before, so that because these are complicated things, and learning to ride is very, very difficult. It takes many, many years, both for the horse to be strong and supple and coordinated enough, and also for the rider to be good at riding. So what we try to do is to build a sort of a big collection of videos that you can watch again and again and again. That is what we would like to do. Okay? So then we're going to sum up with, I've got some information for you here. The next episode is October the 27th. So, and we're going to continue talking about rhythm. And I think we're going to see me and my horse Dalton showing how you can do all these things with a not so perfect seat. And if you've got handicaps or other troubles, we're talking a little about that. And so if you like us on Facebook, we're going to we're informing there on every time we have a new video going or stream. And please give us your suggestions. You know, if you have questions about something we haven't covered at all, we'd like to know that. Or questions about the things that we have said in some of the videos that you didn't quite understand. Okay? Thank you for watching. Good night.